Hello. Whenever this finds you, wherever this finds you, I hope you're doing okay and hanging in there. Or maybe you're doing amazing, and that's amazing. And I'm happy for you. And we want to always try to stay positive, not just for ourselves, but for the collective consciousness, because of course the energy that we each vibrate individually ricochets and impacts us all. But, as someone who has battled with feelings of depression or compression for most of my life, for literally over 2 decades of my life, um, since literally childhood, it's tough. And I I think what is exciting to me the most about sharing and making videos and doing readings and messages for folks and the collective at large is that, like, I'm still going through it. Like, my life is not easy. It has never been really a word I have applied to my life. Um, and so I've seen like all kinds of perspectives on things. But today I really want to like hone things in on like a summary of what I have been noticing, and then we'll pull some cards. So stick around for the cards if you want some Oracle and Tarot pulled. Those will be coming our way as well. But some things I've noticed with the collective have been just, of course, like a lot of spiritual teachers and gurus have said, the rising of consciousness as a human collective. There's a lot more people are kind of going on spiritual journeys or having these spiritual experiences, recognizing and remembering that we're souls first and humans second, like that these are just physical avatars. People are, um, and to put it, I guess, to flip it and to say humans having, spiritual awakening, spiritual journeys, if you want to kind of put it really separate like that, we can say that. But there's been like this influx that I've noticed year after year for me the past few years, despite having different phenomena happen throughout my life since um well, probably since like I was like able to make decisions for myself, and out of the house I was kind of mostly raised in. So maybe like 2014, there was like a shift. And I think there was, but possibly even before then. Maybe I'd even say as early as like 2008 was when I was like really conscious of this, like with the Barack Obama political presidential win. Not that he's not um a war criminal like all politicians, um and part of that ruling class and capitalism, yada yada. But like just the huge amount and diverse amount of people who had been neglected, who genuinely felt, wow, this is someone we can finally believe in. Wow, this is someone who finally looks like us. Wow, like finally a black president, like as if these things meant anything. But in the moment, right, it was like something we could believe in, something that kind of gets you out of the existential dread and the mundane of the everyday, even for people who would say they're spiritual religious folks, right? And so there have been like these really big shifts in technology, pop culture, um politics, etc. And then things have just been going all over the place, right? I think like I've really enjoyed the internet and music 2008 to like 2016, and then things have gotten kind of weird, but now there's some good stuff happening again. But 2018, 2020, and 2023, 2024, possibly like no gaps between 2018 to 2026, as 2025 and 2026 have also been stated by astrologers and other channelers and mediums to be significant years for human consciousness and humankind. So there's definitely this acceleration. And um, even thinking about like the United States, for example, since that's where I'm located, 2026 will make the mark of 250 years since 1776. So there's something about that. And something I have felt is like the draw to decolonization and indigenization, land sovereignty, giving land back, and resources that have been kind of misused, mistreated, um, back to Native American indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. Hopefully not just United States, hopefully Canada would do that too. Um, and there's something where I feel like spiritually, all these different faiths and religions, no matter how long they've been around, creation stories, like different, even what's said to be mythology, what's said to be myth, which probably ended up sounding like myth or becoming myth because of how narrow-minded industrialization and capitalism has kind of made us think about um, not just the separation of science and spirituality or religion, basically what can be proven and what can be proven, what can be measured, what can't be measured by humans. Um, yeah, lost my train of thought, but there's been there's a lot that's been going on, and it's been going on very rapidly, very quickly, but it's been really cool in the recent years. I'm someone who like grew up in different kinds of churches. I also went to different kinds of um places of worship, like Catholic churches, if like a family friend was Catholic, even though my immediate family wasn't, we would like go to someone's communion or baptism or something. Or if I had a friend having like a bat mitzvah, I would like go to temple for that, and then the after party, things like that. And then I have also experienced like bone divination, animal communicators, um, of course, tarot readings and things of that nature, spiritual cleansing, spiritual baths, basically exorcisms, um, and different things. And I've been told I had these different spiritual connections and previously, and um, these these connection to spirits in the astral and the spiritual realm. Um, and I kind of lost track of it, and just got distracted with life. And then I found myself just like struggling so much with mental health things, struggling with chronic pain, physical pain, and I got to the point where like medication wasn't helping me, like all these treatments and foods weren't helping me. Things were so out of control, and I would go to these doctors thinking that Western doctors are going to fix all my problems. They wouldn't. And then I started going the route of, okay, returning to spirituality, going back to try to meditate more, going back to studying Buddhism and mindfulness, and also um, traditional Chinese medicine, working with herbs in different ways, even if that's like my own concoctions. Um, moxibustion, cupping, acupuncture, those were really helpful and really like ended up opening this whole thing in me where I I I really felt like a lot of my physical and emotional pain was due to like stagnant and dysfunctional chi and blood flow and things that related to traditional Chinese medicine. And I have found that for me, I have always come back to like different parts of like my ancestry, which is quite mixed, but there are also like ascension symptoms I've had and different phenomena where I've been totally freaked out, but then they get tied back to a lot of traditional Chinese medicine beliefs and connections and correlations. And if you're not familiar, I definitely encourage you to look up like the five Chinese elements, um, uh, the like Baguazhang and Yin Yang, and looking at all the different seasons, how different seasons of the year are coordinated with different foods, coordinated with different organs, coordinated with different temperatures, coordinated, with different like movement martial arts. Like it's really deep and it's, been practiced by loads of people for generations for reasons, but there, yeah, was a lot that was happening to me emotionally, physically, and there would also be like, especially in these significant years I mentioned earlier, 2020, 2023, um, 2024, these moments where these big things were happening to me. And I was like, this feels like beyond me. Like, where is this even coming from? Like, I'm not even doing anything, or I'm not even, you know, seeming to find triggers, and I'm still feeling very emotional, or I'm in all this pain and I don't know why. And well, some things can be diagnosed. Sure, I've got the Western diagnoses. There are things that genuinely cannot be explained. And so I find myself, of course, really drawn to, as someone who is also like nerdy and likes things to be proven, and I like to explore things until I can know what I feel in my heart to be true, because it just feels so overwhelmingly powerful, and aligned with my experience and my values. Um, for me, like I went from being kind of a Christian to being exposed to different faiths to being agnostic to being atheist, bouncing back and forth with I don't know what I believe, to being like kind of Buddhist, kind of agnostic still, kind of open. And then I kind of just had these wham, wham, wham moments. But then even then, right, like I still was like, I don't want to trap myself in a box. And I just found myself exploring different faiths, and I still found new exciting things about all of them. And there were eventually points with a lot of dogmatic religions where I was like, okay, I'm done with this one. This one, these people tried to convert me and then it went sideways, or then they started talking about things that felt outdated or just didn't sit right with me, and how I live my life, but I still had respect for, you know, people who authentically, just really threw themselves into having faith. Because it's not really popular, it's not really seen as cool to have like a religion or a spiritual faith or practice, really, and to be devoted, but to be like devoted and committed and um to any kind of value system, even like that, like if you think about spirituality as values, like as values, period, like take out politics, because politics is like a system, it's government, it's outside of us, but you know, values, it's something that it's not just personal, right? It's collective, it's communal, you know, there's like how we were raised, and then there's like as we're reparenting ourselves as well and living our own lives, how we come into the world and things over the years like transformative justice, healing justice, forgiveness, radical acceptance, unconditional love, um, and compassion for others combined with abolition, things like some spiritual faiths have combined, like um universalist, Unitarian church that's sometimes even like interfaith, where teachers and leaders kind of have different backgrounds and different spiritual practices, but there's this just this really easy thing about like love, social justice, and peace, and that being spiritual. And it's been cool because like even at least the church that is near me that I've attended online, um, like they literally will sing songs from like Broadway during worship hour. Like these songs weren't initially written about God or or any particular entity, but they're about love, but they're about like connection to others, and it's just wild how it still feels appropriate. And then I'm like, this is how music during any type of worship or music I've just been really in love with has always felt to me. And so music definitely has been very big and has been big recently as have been I've been exploring different psychic things, but clairaudience has kind of been taking over for me a little bit, which has been fun through music and otherwise. But yeah, the gaps between spirituality and politics are closing, which I love to see. And it's like, it's funny because a lot of people I think are like, oh no, this looks like we're going quote unquote backwards, or this looks like, you know, it's like that's because we're looking, a lot of people are kind of expressing worry and fretting because they're like scared of what they're seeing with their like human eyes, with their sighted eyes, and instead of like brow chakra, like what, like can you see beyond seeing? Can you use like that intuition? Can you really look beyond the veil? And because like what's in the news is completely biased. What's like headlines bias, like so much around us is rooted in capitalism, just trying to sell us things and tell us that like so much in life, like happiness and freedom and connection to others isn't free. And it is. So yeah, we can't get lost in that. And if you're having a good time with friends, family, chosen loved ones, pets, plants, trees, you know, living your dreams or trying to explore your dreams and trying to be brave and fearless, like focus on that and what's bringing you joy. And when I look around, like my perspective of what's happening with the people I know and care about, like a lot of really beautiful things are happening for them and for us, right? As a collective, like there's so much abundance, and it's not necessarily like this monetary thing. It's not necessarily financial, but it is an abundant frequency. It is a higher frequency of understanding what it means to be prosperous and wealthy, what it means to exude that positivity so that you do live longer, to exude the inner child levity, the playfulness, the joy, despite the news and the propaganda that says that you don't deserve or have a right to be happy. Like, why would we ever like want to believe a news headline or article or politician that doesn't even know us telling us that we are reduced to a number based on whatever demographic of our identity, and we don't deserve to be happy. We can't form an opinion on our own, even if we're a grown adult or regardless of our age, casting out all this doubt and hate. Like, why would we, it's so I encourage everyone, if you're finding things that don't feel good to see or hear, to try not to be exposed to those things, to, you know, put on filters or personalize ads or just go off the grid or just don't watch the news or find ways to just, unfollow or just not be bombarded with that much negativity, because too much negativity, of course, will just drain us. Um, yeah, telepathy tapes. That's like been a podcast and a documentary series that um is in different parts of it have been released, and then I think there's still fundraising to make the documentary finish or something like that. I know I'm listening to the podcast right now, which has been really cool because I've had my own experience of telepathic communication with other autistic folks, with folks who are on different neurodivergent paths, and experiences, different diagnoses, non-diagnoses on the street, in the hospital, in the psych ward. And it's really cool that the timing of this, when I saw, the dates of when the podcast was released, and the fact that someone brought it up to me recently, and if they brought it up to me, maybe years ago, I wouldn't have thought too much about it. But because I've had experiences myself, it has been really cool and otherworldly to be like, okay, all these doctors, these Western doctors can tell me I'm crazy and I'm tripping and they can medicate me all they want. But regardless of the medication, like I'm still tapped in and tuned in. And when the collective is feeling visceral grief, I feel it too. When the collective is mourning hard, I feel it. When there's joy and celebration and it's just like big and larger than life, I also feel that. I'm really grateful for the positive as well. And I just hope that we get to experience more positivity as a collective, and we're definitely headed in that direction, but it's definitely also going to require a lot of work on our part, right? Like not giving up, We got to believe in ourselves and believe in the power and faith of the collective and have faith in ourselves, faith in each other in order to get to where we want to go. You can't just throw in the towel and just say, oh, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. We have to remember that regardless of money, like money doesn't actually rule the world. And if humans are all about like being conscious, intelligent beings, interconnected, you know, through these like electromagnetic waves that also connect us to everything and anything around us, especially other living beings, then it's just so much more possible and plausible to know and believe that the majority of us who are disenfranchised, marginalized, oppressed, who want a better world, or maybe you're privileged and still want a better world, whatever it may be, but you recognize what is wrong with the world. You recognize that things like that are irrefutable, like extreme violence, unnecessary violence and war and things of that nature, just doesn't have to be that way. And there is so much power in just sticking to our values and our beliefs and being like, nope, no matter what you try to wash us with, no matter what you try to brainwash us with, we will be here and we say that this is not the world we were promised, but it's a world that we're still going to fight for. There's still little kids and babies being born every day. And like, not that there aren't people of every generation fighting and protesting and, but they're thinking about like, or maybe you even have a child or a kid or are going to soon, right? And you got to think like what world is will future generations have? Even if climate change ends up like knocking all of us out before the generations get that far, like let's just think for a second, because if we can heal humanity, if we can get humanity on the same page, then like everything else will come like much quicker, right? Because then we'll be able to be like, okay, now we know we need to listen to indigenous folks about how to take care of the planet and let's do it. Okay, now we know where to put our money and to put our money where our mouth is for the folks who have excess wealth. Now we know we need to redistribute it. And now there are no more houseless people. Then there are no more hungry people. And then there are no more people who are in need of clothing, and food and shelter and clean water. And then there are norm no n- there are no more people struggling and suffering in these geopolitical ways. Then it's just like people then just have to deal with their own spiritual journeys, but because they have the resources on a practical level, then they can just like dive off into their own journeys. They can live their dreams, then they can find cures to things, vaccines, and ending like tragic like illnesses, and they can create new art and wonderful beautiful things for the world. And then like almost overnight, like the numbers that we used to see about you know the planet and climate change or sustainability might maybe they won't be reversed, but maybe they'll stop like increasing in or like lowering in value. Maybe things will take a turn for the better, and you gotta believe that. So if you don't believe it, then what is really the point? Like there is no point. If you don't believe things could get better or that there is anything better than this, then there is no point, right? We have teachability, hollow bone, root girl, the disowned self. Getting a lot of, so that's like root chakra energy. Root chakra, that's all about foundations, childhood, early starts, inner child, thinking about like the wounded self, shadow self, who you are deep, deep down, benefactor, grace, and generosity. So if you're able to give back to others in whatever way, and that's not necessarily financial, that's even like the idea of random act of kindness every day, and going even back to the teachability card is, like if someone taught you, then great, then you can be gracious and kind enough to teach someone else what you have learned on your journey. Dances on one foot, balancing act. So definitely a card about kind of this agility of like like dancing through life, for lack of a better term. Um yeah, and this agility to this mastery, this skill, this finesse, this ability to kind of seamlessly waltz and then smoothly move and navigate through different spaces. So maybe you have some Libra energy in your chart, or if you don't, perfect sign to look to it for cases of being diplomatic, or not necessarily avoiding conflict, but being able to be a mediator, being able to be a moderator, being able to be the one, where there are two sides to a conversation, being the one to say, well, you know what, I see your point and I see your point, I see everybody's point, and you can both be right, but it's important to recognize that you're both right, and like there's not necessarily a wrong unless like someone is being hurt and harmed in some way. And then if there is, it could be a teachable moment, it could be a learning moment. There are ways to rephrase things so people don't take things personally. But sometimes a lot of people's views that can be changed and can be opened, or just a matter of being based on what their perspective and life experience is. Just like how some people may say that one group of people are naturally super biased because their ancestors were, did certain amount of things, certain kinds of things that I won't say here, that is frowned upon. And then other people have been historically disenfranchised so much and oppressed for so long that it is very easy to say that most everything that happens negatively to these groups of people is because of who they are, that they can't be controlled. And sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it's true, um, but not always. Sometimes it's a coincidence, right? And so there's a lot to consider, but I really hope that, at least for me, I know I've got my Libra placements, and I know that my spiritual journey has actually opened me up politically a lot as well. I mean, I still have like my stances of like, okay, when there's like what I believe in, what I would vote for, what I would stand up for, what I'm gonna like march in the streets for, what I'm going to protest about, like those are all like different things. And I take them at different levels. Hi, Kitty. Um, we have radical acceptance at the bottom of the deck, which is hilarious because um I named that as one of the things under transformative and healing justice, um, that connecting and bridging the gaps between the spiritual and the political. And I think a big part of at least the United States and how it differs from other countries who are like not afraid to combine spirituality or religion with their politics is that the United States says there's a separation of church and state, and there isn't. Like people have to swear on the Bible in court, and then it says, "In God we trust" on the money. And then in the anthem, it also says God in there. Not that God can't be like a really umbrella term, but in these circumstances, right, it was like like pretty specific. Um, like it wasn't really, it hasn't been generic. And then a lot of politicians are like really like they almost all of them have like a religion that they kind of have to at least say that they're really have strong feelings about or like identify with or something like that, which has always been interesting and fascinating to me. But I think once like folks really kind of unpack the messiness of politics and how nothing is really serving us the way we want to, but it can, and we can show the way, we can demonstrate the way by really like taking over the political landscape, right? By asserting what we believe in and what we want to happen in the worlds we want to create. Um, so yeah, if there's going to be an uprising, I'll be first in line. I'll be first to call it. Um, so shuffling through some tarot now. Let's see. Spirit and spirit guides. What other messages you have for the collective? And something I tried to do is I tried to do pick a card readings because that's what I saw a lot of what other people were doing online, and that's what I was exposed to a lot, right? It was like, picking my cards on other people's pick a card readings, before I got into doing my own readings. And even now, I still will watch other people's readings, just to see if other people can tap into an energy or just validate something that I'm encountering or channeling. That's always nice to hear and see. But I remember like when I was trying to do them, I was like, this is so much. Like I can't, this it's so much. Like, how do people do so many at a time? And maybe people take breaks. I don't know, but it was just so much at once. And for me, I felt like I can really only tune into one energy, and that's like a collective energy. And I can do one-on-ones, and I can do like if I was to do like a live stream reading, and I'm reading for one person at a time, one card at a time. I get to do things like that, sure, but when I really get in the zone, What I really love to do is like collective readings. I feel like it's always like people on the same wavelength as me. And yeah, 'cause I feel connected to a lot of different people. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're on different paths. So, or different points in our journeys, or we kind of just split off like branches, like different ends of branches on a tree, or like roots, and we go off in different directions, which is totally okay. So whenever you're finding me, I hope this suits you well. And I hope you pick up what I'm throwing down, like the energies in the air, for me are ooh, pretty clear. Hmm. Okay, let's see what we have. We have the priestess. So this tarot deck is a mango tarot, and the gender roles are switched. There are different languages on the cards. They're color coded, and the colors have different seasonal ties and elemental ties. Um, and because there's a lot that's different in the interpretations of these cards, but let's go through them. But you're welcome to to interpret as you will, of course, as well. But we have this figure, right? This water energy, um, which is interesting because I first flipped over um in the next row, um, the moon card. And then in this first card, first row, it has the moon, like a crescent moon, same as the moon card. The crescent moon it's a reflection of the crescent moon in the water. And we have this veiled figure who is actually like bowing down their head, and there is like actually a book inside of the water that's like open, but they're not rushing to fetch the book. And so there's something interesting here. I believe this is the High Priestess card. This just says the priestess. Um, here, but there's something about like emotional reflection, and also kind of just like being such a master of emotion in your own world that you're like, oh, this book that I've been studying, or my log of journal entries, all this thing that's so precious to me is now fallen. And instead of me getting upset that it's now being crumbled by the water, I'm enjoying and embracing the beauty of water, of like nature's gift, of the moonlight, of how beautiful the moon is. I'm just letting the water do its thing, and this figure is also barefoot, so there's also this connecting to water, connecting to nature in this beautiful way, this kind of surrendering, honestly, surrendering to what will be, the stars. Wow, and this is a really intense photo. Let me see. I don't know I have to censor that. But it's like one figure, and their forehead is like glowing. I believe this is the star card. Um, and it's funny in the other languages, some of them says the star singular, and then in like two of the languages it says it in plural. This card deck, it has the 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 card name in um one, two, three, four, five, six different languages. Um, so yeah, that's really fun for me. But in case you wanted to think about this card or look into it further, um, there is definitely this like energy of like star beings, star seeds, and maybe you resonate with that. I know I do. And even just like looking up at the night sky, if you can, feel or see or know that there are stars there, and just knowing there are stars there, even if you live in a very industrialized area, or you literally can't see stars, but you just feel like the night breeze, just knowing that there are like stars out there. I think is beautiful. Or even in thinking of humans as stars, I think is really beautiful. We have King of Cups, this beautiful, abundant, like nourished energy. We have this figure just like drinking up um water, I'll say, and then they're just like bubbles all around this figure. And so there's this mastery of emotions, this celebration of life, feeling like Holy Grail energy. We have Princess of Swords in reverse. So this is like the page or the Knight of Swords. And so this energy, it was in the reverse, but even just reading it as is, what I love about this card, this figure has the sword in one hand and then is also like riding like a beluga whale. Um, and instead of me, a traditional horse. And so what I love is that there's kind of both the water energy and air energy here. Swords is typically seen as being with the air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, while the blue is typically with the water, typically with cups. And so there's this balancing with the mind, right? Because that's where we have both thoughts and emotions. We're like balancing and juggling it all. But we can do it. We can do it, right? We have Ten of Pentacles, which is all about like starting a fresh family and home, um celebration, community, but we got it in reverse. So it's something that it's on its way. It's literally wrapped around the corner, right? But we have to kind of go through this journey that's kind of like deep reflecting on who we are, kind of dropping our ego and even the things that make us feel like, okay, I've dropped my ego, now what? It's like, okay, now drop it again, right? It's like remembering, you have to remember again and again. It's like how a lot of Buddhists and mindfulness practitioners will say, it's a practice because you have to like keep returning to it. It's, the idea of devotion where you have to, you don't just meditate once for the rest of your life and that's it. You keep returning to it. With yoga, with sports, with art, anything that can be considered a practice, even a self-care as a practice, right? We have, you know, being one with nature and the stars and recognizing that you're a star and that you're amazing, reveling in your abundance and in joy and what the earth has to offer, and not feeling guilty or ashamed for that. You know, maybe you've had your guard up before, but your mind is still a little bit cloudy. But there is, right, this possibility for being like super strong and in charge of our emotionality, having that mental clarity. But we're still on our way there, on our way there. We have, okay, now Queen of Cups. So you have that, the upright King of Cups already there. But then we have in reverse, Queen of Cups coming up. So we have this now, the feminine energy, right? That's about receiving more, right? That receptive energy coming in more, right? Thinking about Empress energy more. And so this being in the reverse, just as with the Princess of Swords card in reverse, it's really telling me a lot about like the receptive yin energy, the feminine energy, the reckless abandon, wild energy that's like untamed, like, Missy Elliott's lose control. You can't hold me down. You can't tell me what to do. Rebel energy, really feeling that. So remember, trying to remember like that we have more to learn, more to grow, even when we feel like we've had all these profound moments. Like, okay, not just being humble, but being curious about like, I wonder what else is there for me to learn. I wonder how else I can grow and expand from this. We have in the upright the tower, a huge shift will be coming around the corner after we have like, right, these three upright moments of like where we are, these three moments of like, okay, where we can improve, but what we'll be working on. And then we have like boom, tower. And then we have lastly the moon card, which is this figure, beautiful figure dancing. It actually has fire energy, like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, dancing with the polar bear, which is beautiful that we have kind of the icy and the red. And then we have swans surrounding the polar bear and the figure, red-headed figure, cloaked in a red robe, uh, dancing under the moonlight there. And the moon is typically, right, associated with emotions, emotional strength, and also the shadow side of things, the other side of things here. There is like getting to know like your fears and befriending. Like, why would you be scared of a polar bear? Yes, they're intense and they could eat you, but what if you were to like dance with a bear instead of being in fear of it or harming it because you thought it would harm you first? So lots of beautiful energy there. And I think that coming from the high priestess to the moon is a perfect way to start and then finish because we're really, coming from a place that's like, well, I have mastered a lot and I am considered an expert, but I want to go deeper. And that's what makes me an expert. And that's what makes me a high priestess, right? And that's what makes us in that high priestess energy is being able to reflect, being able to go deeper, 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 being able to have that moment of, you know, like letting all your belongings in your spell book get washed up and just being like, man, I gotta start from scratch. But boy, isn't the moon beautiful? Boy, isn't natural bodies of water beautiful? And then we have the devil card. Ooh, spooky. With two people bowing and a red figure. But I got it in reverse. Haha. So that's funny because I'm currently in Capricorn season now, so it's really interesting to get the Devil card, but to get it in reverse, which is really about like, okay, you don't need to heed this as a warning of letting go of attachments. This is kind of confirmation, like, oh, we have done it, or you're really close to like pulling off. Um, like releasing the last of like the brainwashed goop that I mentioned earlier, because the brainwashing is the devil, right? What they want us to believe is the devil card. And then us being like, reverse, reverse, gotcha, is that devil card reverse energy. So I hope that you take it easy, dear one, as you go on into your journey of your day, night, evening, and whenever and wherever this finds you. I hope you are doing okay, and I hope tomorrow is even better. Peace and light.